Today, we are reviewing the Chucky TV show, and this time around, instead of the regular reviews for the TV show, I'm going to review every single episode, give every episode a grade, and then kind of, at the end, do a little average of what the overall show was. And this time around, there will also be spoilers, just because I don't think I can talk about the show without going over some spoilers, so if you just want to see what I think the show ranks, you can just fast forward to the end. And I also will be listing some things a little bit. There's 8 episodes to go through, and if I'm going through every single episode, I can't go into that many details. Starting off with episode 1. I enjoyed that they weren't rushing a little bit in this episode. They started off with a nice kind of slow pacing of it. There's a little bit Chucky movements in it. But I kind of enjoyed that they didn't want to rush straight into it. I like the main character as well, Jake. He's very different, a little quirky, so I kind of actually enjoyed that they tried a little bit more with the character, though it gets a little annoying in future episodes. Not the character, per se, but that every character in the show had to have something different and quirky about them, so it kind of hurts Jake's character a little bit. I also enjoyed the little dinner scene with his cousin and stuff like the little introduction to the cousin. I enjoyed actually the intro to Junior. It kind of like the first few episodes actually breaks away from the average Chucky stuff and kind of, switching things up a little bit. And there were some minor things I enjoyed, like the location, the little podcast thing. But things I didn't enjoy, the dad was just so off in the entire show. Like, he's so weird. There's things where he's talking about the mom, and then the uncle was a little bit off. And then, the dad was just so mean, so straight away. He's just so awful. They were trying a little too hard with everything, and that's another thing that plagues the show a little bit, is sometimes characters just try way too hard just to demonstrate who their character trait is supposed to be. And of course, I enjoyed some campy stuff, but there was some weird campy stuff, and, Chucky kind of comes out of nowhere. But the teacher was awesome, and overall, it wasn't too bad. I'm giving the episode a 70. Moving on to episode 2, they slowed down the pacing a little bit, which was nice. Some of the stuff with the nanny stuff was a bit weird. There was some short angles of Chucky and this happens throughout the entire show, short angles of Chucky just looked a little bad, to me at least. But it wasn't too bad at points, but I don't know. It just wasn't the Chucky of old. And then we also get more of Lexi's family, but this is so awful. And that's a lot of people in the show. This is so awful, straight away. And another unfortunate thing is there was some weird acting in the show, and that happens a lot. But there were some cool scenes. It builds things very nicely. I enjoyed it for the most part. Besides, it was the scene I didn't like the most was at the end, where Lexi was dressed up as the dad, and this was the scene felt like it was going on forever and ever and ever. And in the first episode, she was shown to not be the nicest person, but I don't know, it just felt so weird. It didn't feel like something she would do. But overall, I gave the episode a 69. Nice. Moving on to episode 3, it really highlights Chucky's kind of having some odd motives in it. And it really kind of dampened the plot a little bit of the overall show. Chucky's whole motives not being explained until the last episode in a brief line was kind of a bit odd choice, but in this episode it really kind of highlighted his odd motives. Chucky and Jake became weird stalkers, and Jake kind of became a low-key killer. He didn't kill anyone, I get that, but it really made Jake unlikable for even if it was just one episode. If your main character is becoming unlikable, it really hurts the show. The bonus backstory I thought was Jake being suspicious throughout the entire show, that type of acting and just in general was it felt very over the top and unneeded. The teacher was again the highlight of the episode. Lexi got a little bit old dealing with the character every single episode being extreme bully. It was just got very old and tiresome. There was actually though some good scenes in it. There was like a graveyard / meeting scene. There was some actual like decent stuff in the entire show. And overall, I actually gave this episode a 71 despite complaining about a lot of the things. Because a lot of the things I'm complaining about are like minor, like 10-second parts of the episode. So it really didn't impact the overall episode. I just wanted to kind of like bring those things up because they kind of hurt the overall like plot of the episode. You know what I mean? And it hurts like future episodes. But moving on to episode 4. I have mixed opinions about the beginning of the episode. It was dramatic, but weird. Lexi being like perfectly healthy was kind of odd. And then like the team up with Jake was like, what the fuck is happening here? Because like the whole like fire scene and like all like the intense stuff from the last episode, like, which is one of the best parts of episode 3, was like the ending bits. But now it kind of feels like the beginning of this episode kind of undermines the ending of episode 3. And I really just feel like this entire show would have been a better movie. There was a lot of weird moments in acting, but again, this episode and the last episode had better pacing than a lot of the show had. Some characters actually became more likable in this show, and it highlighted that they can actually act a little bit better. There was some more odd backstory, but there was a lot of good references and teasers in this episode that I actually liked. And overall, I gave this episode a 71. Moving on to my least favorite episode of the entire series. I don't even remember why, but episode 5. They had a lot of good ideas, but the way they did them was just bad in my mind. Chucky's voice with the human actor, which wasn't even the same like actor, was just so weird. Like, it gets better in future episodes, but in this episode, like, just the first way they did it was just so bad. Though for the most part, I kind of enjoyed seeing how Tiffany actually met Chucky. It kind of feels like a little weird, but you know what? I actually kind of enjoyed it. Though that was like a lot of backstory stuff. Going to the modern day, Chucky falls into this like garbage chute at the hospital, and he just there was needles, and he was just like pretty much like high off his ass, which was just so random and so campy, and so it was pretty bad. I would have to say. There was also Devin, who I haven't really brought up mainly in these reviews, because his acting was just throughout the entire show. But now he's just on the same page with Lexi, who's been bullying Jake up until last episode. And I don't understand. Like, I get Jake and Devin, they kind of like each other. But him just being on the same page with, like, yeah, kill a doll, okay, was just really random. And despite having an entire series to build for things, sometimes things just happen randomly for no reason, with no explanation, or it's like it happens in between episodes, so we really don't get to see it. But Lexi's mom was shown more, and she's just such an annoying character. I get that's the point of the character, but it felt like the character tries really, really hard to be awful, and instead of us just disliking the character, they just have to like give you examples so many times, just make an unlikable character. There's a lot of weird moments in the show, especially like there was this whole scene where they're talking in the classroom, and then Junior, who's dating Lexi and is of course the cousin of Jake, kind of just walks up and tries joining the conversation, and it's just so weird. Also, at this point, was just fully ignoring that Jake tried to like kill Lexi, but didn't. Like, it's just getting fully glossed over. There was a good scene where Jake saves Lexi, which was a good scene from Chucky, but it's kind of just gets glossed over for the most part. Like, if I was Lexi, I would still be so mad. In a lot of scenes, she will like reference like, "Oh, I'm still mad at you," but that's pretty much it. Though there was some good and bad romantic scenes, good and bad Chucky scenes. The reveal with the aunt was actually intriguing. Like, it was very different than what a lot of people would have expected. Nika coming back was a highlight, but one of the worst parts of the entire episode was the principal being beheaded. It was so badly edited. Go back and rewatch it. You can even see like just go when we watch it. It was so bad. I'm giving this episode a 60. Moving on to the highest reviewed episode of the series. Like, it's not my favorite. It's just the most well done episode of the series. Andy is kind of like actually finally in the show. Him and Kyle are like hunting Chucky, and it was like a little bit of a fun scene. There was some weirdly edited flashbacks though, like, cause they, like, the flashbacks just don't match the modern stuff, and it just looks weird. I feel like they could have like edited them in a little bit better. One of the kind of annoying points, like, is a lot of the references in this episode was just like thrown at you. Like, they didn't let you just, like, you know, understand yourself. Like, they kind of just like, here's the reference, here's what you're supposed to get from it. I don't know, there's some odd acting also in this episode, like a lot of the episodes are. And Chucky moving was still odd, but I actually enjoyed the backstory more of Chucky this episode. Like, they kind of switched things up, made it a little bit more enjoyable. There was also some good scenes with the family learning about the aunt's cancer. Tiffany and Nika had some fun interactions. The breakup scene was out of nowhere. The aunt stuff was dramatic. I really thought that should have been like the way they ended the episode, but they kept going just a little bit longer, and Chucky's motivations were explained a little bit more. And the still, it's just by this episode point, it's just weird watching it. You kind of understand it, but it's just weird. But I'm giving that one a 76. Moving on, episode 7. Lexi's mom still sucks as a person. I enjoyed the beginning a lot. Andy and Kyle had some interesting scenes in this episode. Caroline, Lexi's sister, was interesting. Like, I kind of liked the progress with her throughout the entire series, but it was also, like, her character still feels a little bit unneeded, and this was kind of like, this episode highlighted this, like, she's kind of unneeded for the entire show. Chucky then now tries to recruit Junior to help him, which, like, I kind of liked that Chucky's progress throughout the show of switching people, but Junior's just going along with it. Just, I don't know, I felt like they could have built that better instead of just, like, it felt like they didn't want to build it for shock value, but it's so annoying that this just comes out of nowhere. And then also, what hurts the show is that Junior actually does kill someone. He kills his dad, aka Jake's uncle, and, like, I don't understand. I don't think they should have made him kill. Like, it felt like too fast, too soon. Maybe do it in the next episode, so we can have, like, a little time jump in between to, like, understand that Junior is training with Chucky. You know, like, Jake had, like, a few episodes before he tried to kill someone. But beyond that, there was actually some good moments and stuff in the show. Giving it a 72 this episode. And now, the series finale. It's always hard to make a season finale actually good, but they tried. I think, I don't know, I had mixed opinions about the beginning. Junior being a complete psycho was good acting, but it felt unsatisfying with no build, and then he kind of, like, switches off throughout the entire show. But the kid acted really well, in my mind at least. Also, Andy ditches Kyle at one point in one of the episodes, and it just becomes pointless because Kyle comes back. Like, it just, like, ruins that entire scene, which was a dramatic scene. Like, it was actually a really made scene. And then, like, she's just back. There was some good scenes, though, when Chucky was talking to a Chucky doll. I enjoyed Tiffany's progress with her character. It was nice. I enjoyed the straight-up reference to Glenda. And there were some other characters and things referenced, which were a little bit more subtly thrown in, most of them at least. I enjoyed they faked out Devin's death. And they faked out Andy's death, which was nice. But overall, it just kind of, like, hurts Kaya's death in the show. They really built the stakes also well. I enjoyed what happened to Junior in the episode, his ending. It felt like he needed more build, though. So it was good, but unfortunately couldn't fully enjoy it. There were still more weird moments. There was Jake killing one of the Chucky dolls, which kind of hurts his whole overall character progress. I enjoyed Andy's moment at the end, but I absolutely hated what happened to Nika at the end of the episode. That was just dumb choice in my mind. Overall, this episode gets a 67. And a lot of these things sound like weird. Like, why are these episodes getting higher than the other? I don't know. You just have to watch these episodes to actually kind of get it a little bit. But overall, I'm giving the series a 73. It was an okay series. I wish it was a little bit better. They had good ideas, and I think in season 2, they will kind of perfect what the show should actually be. But until next time, I've been Birdime. Make sure to have a good night.